Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Michael Trick, and it is my pleasure to welcome you here. I am the dean here at Carnegie Mellon University in Qatar, and it is great to see you all for this Dean's Lecture Series. We created this series to create a bridge that connects the theory we teach in our classrooms to the reality of a rapidly changing world. We invite leaders in the Qatar community to share their experiences and perspectives on issues that shape Qatar, the region, and the world. Today's guest is a distinguished leader in international development and a familiar figure in the global humanitarian landscape. Mr. Fahad Al-Sulaiti is the Director General of the Qatar Fund for Development. In this role, he leads the state of Qatar's international development efforts, guiding the organization's mission to promote sustainable development and mobilize humanitarian aid globally. Under his guidance, QFFD advances innovative finance mechanisms, including concessional loans, grants, and investments to address critical challenges in health, education, and economic development. Mr. Al-Sulaiti brings 23 years of professional experience to this role. Prior to joining QFFD, he served as Chief Executive Officer of Education Above All, and you may recall 2 years ago, he gave a talk in that role. During his tenure there, he played a pivotal role in establishing strategy and governance, managing a project portfolio that spanned 60 countries and leveraged over $30 billion in funding. Today, Mr. Al-Sulaiti will be joining us for a conversation with me about the strategic priorities of the Qatar Fund for Development, the role of collaboration in fostering peace and prosperity. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Fahad Al-Sulaiti to the Dean's Lecture Series.
Good deal.
Well, thanks very much for being with us today, and I'm glad we're doing this in a somewhat different format. I look forward to our conversation. So let's begin. What is the Qatar Fund for Development? What's its mission? Why are you here?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. This is not the first time, but with a different hat today with Qatar Fund for Development. Qatar Fund for Development is part of the Qatar National Plan 2030. We have a focus huge on the international development and humanitarian worldwide. Our niche that we have is focus on the three sectors. The major three sectors that we have is education, health, and economic empowerments. On the economic empowerments, we work on different initiatives, mainly on infrastructures. Today, there is a huge gap, in the infrastructures worldwide. If we take, like, for example, Africa today, more than, I would call 90% of Africa, they don't have electricity, for example. Okay, is this acceptable? I think people cannot live anymore, without electricity. And this is linking us to the second sector, which is the climate change. So we addressing the climate change, resilience, for peoples. Again, we have a huge focus on sports. We have huge focus on other major sector that we look at it. And again, digital has been major things that we are focusing and continuing our commitment on.
Okay, great. Now, QFFD is part of Qatar and a big aspect of Qatar's international development strategy. Can you say a bit about Qatar's international development strategy and how QFFD fits into it?
Yeah, so since last year, Qatar have a huge strategy international. You can see Qatar is playing a huge role today, on different aspects from the development, humanitarian to peacemakers, and we are so proud of what have been committed today to the international institutes and other international institutions that we are working on. From the Qatar Fund from perspective is that we have a new strategy that's been adopted last year. Our strategy is focused, more on how can we make the difference, how can we make the impact on the ground. We are not a grant base, we are not a charity. This is very important people to understand, you know. That's why I call development. So our fund for development. The aspect of the development is more how can we generate and play a big role on advancing the GDP of the countries. You know, how can we do a big impact? How can we really increase, you know, the country commitment and good revenues so the country can depend on themselves. We need to have a good sustainable plan for the country. Again, everyone know that aid will never make country rich countries, you know, the poor countries, which is something that linking with the economy. So our role now is really focus a lot on the jobs, and we believe, you know, creating jobs, and this is part of the what we are doing. We are bringing students from international to Qatar. You know, we have Qatar scholarship we are working on. This is part of the national plan that what we are supporting. Actually, part of the new commitment that we are having now with Qatar Foundation and lots of others to bring people here to learn and take the experience and go back to their countries. You know, leading the countries. You know, on different aspects. So from the Qatar perspective, we believe strongly that the development is the sustainable, you know, approach that we want to take. We cannot just do ad hoc here and there. We do humanitarian sometimes with conflict, natural disasters. This is something that we are continuing commitment. So you know, life saving is a major commitment at Qatar, and we have a quick response. We do it either within 72 hours now. You know, our target that how can we respond to the humanitarian aspects. But I can say that the development is we changing the whole perspective of the development for us. So how can we are doing this? We are going on more on the investment side, investment for development. We're not looking only for IAR and making the profit. We will reinvest the profit that will generate again back to the countries. But the main things that we want to generate is that how can country generate the money, and how to do this. We cannot keep the depend on the country themselves. What we want to do now is to create in the private sectors. Because Qatar national, you know, if you see Qatar now, ICT is managed by private sector, electricity is managed by private sectors. You know, most of the things that we're doing in Qatar is managing by the private sectors. If you compare either education, you know, we have 60-40, and plus maybe it's coming from the private sector aspect. So we will say, you know, we want to enhance and making the more of the development side and the countryside. We need to depend on the private sectors. We need to create a very strong governance for the private sector that we want to depend on, because the government cannot take any more. Government have a huge burden on loans now. If you can talk to most of African countries, if they want to really breathe, you know, they cannot breathe because they need to do the settlement for other development, you know, for IMF, for World Bank, and all of these things. But because people saying what we can do with this, why you are putting additional loans to the country? We don't want to put additional loan. Not our role for as Qatar Fund for developments to play is to put additional loan and to really let the countries going suffering again for the repayments, you know, for this. Our role is to generate income to the countries. Let them depend on the private sector. Let the private sector deals with this investment, you know. And we believe strongly this is the future. This is how we want to driven the world.
Okay, it's a very interesting strategy. I think it's a very important strategy. How do you measure success? And does it change by geography, or is it? You talked about Africa. Is that different than some of the other regions? How do you measure the impact?
We measure the impact by how can we do really a good impact on the GDP of the country. This is number one. We measure impact on the humanitarian aspect, which is very important. The human capital for us is number one. You know, so we want to see educations how really being improved. We want to see the health sectors. You know, how can be improved not only from the country itself, but either on the preventing. You know, prevent the health sectors, because this is a major thing. Which we see Ebola have how impacted recently. You know, in Africa, we see recent issues happening, you know, in Pakistan and other countries. So all these diseases need to be well controlled, you know. Otherwise, this is affecting the development, affecting the humanitarian aspect, you know, in each country. Any disease is happening now. It's really affecting not only the country, but the region, the whole region. So for us, measuring the impact is very important, is that what we want to do is to change these measures by making it first on the private sector's issues, because the growth of the countries, we have seen good countries doing very well now, by the way. We seen, I just came from Tajikistan, where they are building a huge capacity, electricity, 3,600 megawatts, but not only for the country themselves. They are working now to provide this 3,000 megawatt to the neighbor countries. So they're going to gain profits from the country themselves. But at the same time, they provide access to others, where, they give access for agricultures, for clean waters. So it's impacting them. And that's why I started my conversation today with the electricities on that aspect. Last important, how we measure our impact. I will not say only data, because data is important, but not only the data aspect. I will measure my success when I see the country growth, and country growth is really how the country's stake is being in a step, and we have seen a percentage of the impact that we have done on that countries through the education, through health sectors. We want countries to shift only, the budget, and to be a diversity on the budget, coming to all the sectors that they have major things. So, but sometimes the country need a building capacity, and a knowledge that how can this be done, which is fine. I think this is something that we can support, and we are working in a number of countries now. A building capacity in Syria, for example, we have a huge commitment. We started with the humanitarian, then we went to the development, providing them now with per day. They have 3.4 cubic meters of gas coming to them for electricity. It's a huge commitment that state of Qatar have put $700 million, for 1 year. But we how we measure this? We measure it now for the future, for the investment for that. See, so we are enhancing and working very close with the central bank and Ministry of Finance. We work with other partners international to make sure the banking system is acceptable, in the measure that they are taking. So each countries have different aspects, from Central Asia to Middle East to Africa. So I cannot give a single model for one countries, but each country will have a specific model and business plan that we are putting and making the impact on it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now, naturally, in this building, education is of great interest to us. And of course, it's been the focus of your work for many, many years. And you feel strongly that education is key to international development. And so, how does QFFD see the role of education? What does it mean to be investing in education from a QFFD perspective? And, what role is it playing in some of the least developed countries around the world?
So first of all, I think this is not only Qatar Fund for Development, is the state of Qatar, priorities. Number one is education. You see, so local or international. You see, so this is the top things that we have. So for us, as Qatar Fund for Development, the contribution for education is being almost number one now, on the sectors that we have that I mentioned. We measure this through a number of partners. We have our strategic partners, Education Above All Foundation. They're doing amazing work now, more than 70 countries, leveraging more than $3.5 billion with our partners, giving access back to educations. This is key things. We work in primary, secondary, and high education. But I think the approach that we want to do on the impact side, which is we changed and they changed their strategy. So their strategy, either for education above all now, not talk about them, but they have an impact on the percentage of the country that they do. Sometimes they do zero out-of-school children in a certain country. They take a percentage of a country where they can do the impact, which is aligned with what we are doing, as Qatar Fund for Development. But I think for higher educations, I think it's important that we change our approach a bit. The approach needs to be look at it from different angles. The student cannot only be 4 years there, for higher educations. Okay, the country need something that different we can put together. Like a quick programs. Sometimes we can do something in 1 year,
or 2-year programs, for higher educations, where it's really in need for that countries. We are now in discussion with Rockefellers and Mastercards and other partners, because we need to link the higher education with the job opportunities,
Yep.
and how we can create jobs. The issue in this country is that why this unemployed number rates is a huge, talk about Middle East or Africa or Asia, because what they're learning today is not what they need, right? What they need is different. What they need is that to understand what the natural resources that they have, okay, and how can they utilize the natural resources. People talking what the trend now is not the climate. The trend is in the mining. Everyone talking about mining and mining and mining, okay, and everyone talking about these corridors and how this mining is really big things that everyone's looking at from different perspectives. So what people need to know about it. We take Qatar as an example, and on the 80s, most of Qataris have been traveled way to the United States and Europe and other place, learning engineers. So it's for us something new. Why? Because what we have discovered here, the oil and gas, we need more people in civil, in petroleum engineering, gas engineers. So this is the aspect we believe that the shift need to be done, where Qatar have put their priorities, in the 80s or 70s, that we need more engineers now, to manage what our natural resources, and they take it forward. I think for Africa and for Asia and Central Asia, LDC countries, I think this is what they need now. Is what we need to give a programs based on the natural resources. They have a huge, believe me, I mean, certain countries, I can't speak about one or two countries today, for example, the teenagers, one of the most diseased countries, all these things. But Niger, if you see, they have uranium, they have lithium, they have gold, they have diamonds, everything that you want, and by the way, they have the reserve on the lithium, 10% of the world.
Wow.
You see, inside Niger, but and they are, sorry to say, they are one of the poorest countries in the world. With all these resources that they have, they don't have the good. They need their people to manage, their natural resources. They need the technical and vocation, that can be provided to them. So that's why we say it, again, talking about all these job opportunities and talking about economy and all these things, we'll go back to education. This is what they need today. This is the most important things that can be make this shift, of the priorities on these candidates. I don't think they need people now to talk about marketings or anything else. Marketing will come on the next stage. But I think what they need now is to go for this specific mining is material that they have, and they can utilize it on the futures.
Okay, great. So, earlier you mentioned a bit about the role of data, and can you try to expand on that? Because of course, we're here at Carnegie Mellon. We very much are big fans of quantitative decision making, not exclusively, but importantly. And so, in what ways are you using data-driven decision making to shape your programming, your priorities, and so on?
Data is the most important things, for starting any projects, for looking at any strategy, country strategy that we are working on. The first things will driven us is the data for that countries. Okay, so data on the financial, data on the number of populations, data on the economic situation, the whole, going on in the countries. We'll be going in the health sectors, what the impact that we can do, what the issue that they are facing. But I can tell you today, we have a very poor data in the world, unfortunately. All right. If you want to see, if you just open the internet today, you will not find the recent data. Okay. Maybe the latest one, which is the best one, could be 2024 or beyond. But if you see the realistic data, there are no good realistic data. We see the number of population, take Nigeria, for example, the number of population is not reflecting, the actual number that is there. Why? Because they're still suffering of the digital data, which is still people working on that paper. Secondly is because they don't have a good certification of birth for these peoples, so they're suffering from that aspects. All right, and so how to improve the data, how to work on all of these things. This is a big concern, for us and for the world. Because I can tell you, when we started any projects, we start the implementation, we always discover that we always have our wrong data. We don't have the right data.
Right.
You see, and this is make our jobs more difficult. We need to do extension, we need to do X and Y, why, and we need to give a justification for all of these things, because all of this about the data. So that's why I think that how to sell the data perspectives is a key and important aspect. And if you want to see who's a custodian today for data on the worldwide, all right, you will not find one source in the world that you say, oh, this is the data center for the world.
Yeah.
You see, they don't know. Okay, so maybe this is a new project for a student to look at it, and to create a big data centers, that we have today. For us, when we go to education, we'll go to UNESCO. When we go to health, we go to WHO. So it's only the UN. Sometimes we go to the World Bank for the economy, and we go to the IMF too, for financial aspect. We have, for the development side, we have OECD, it's in Paris, where they sit and collect the information for us. But the big issues is that who is validating this data, who is analyzing this data. This is the most important things. We don't have good analysis and all these things. AI could help for analyzing the data, but not good for collecting data. Because to collect data, you need to be on the ground. You need to go for each single house, working with the communities, developing a strong system inside the country. Then we will say, oh yeah, we have a good digital data, today. So it needs to be started from human, then we will go to digitals.
So the main issue is not that the data is spread out or how to analyze it. It's just it doesn't exist. And you need to figure out better ways of collecting accurate, real data.
True. And I'm sure, everyone will agree on that. When based on experience, on the development now for 15 years, we keep always struggling on the data issue, from education to economic empowerment to everything. And again, this will be a big issues for you in the futures. When you start collecting the data, you'll figure out you will never reach good economy if you don't have a good data that you want to reflect. The only people who have a good data is the bankers. So they know how to count, they know how to do things. So always they have a strong data, working on that, and there are no faults on that data. So because there are people who's monitoring this very well on that aspects.
Yeah.
And this is a single opinion. I used to work at the bank before, so I can do the comparison between data on the development and data on the bank is 100% different, and about accuracy is 100% different.
Yeah, and AI systems can be overconfident in their belief of the accuracy and depth of the data, and can make it up otherwise if they need it. So yeah, I can see the difficulties involved. So, let me, one final question from me. And we're at the university here, and what can we do to help? How do you see partnerships with universities contributing to the goals of QFFD in general, to future-ready skills in these fragile or emerging economies?
Thank you very much. I think this is why I'm here today, really, to talk to you and to your faculties, to the students. We are still, sorry to say that, but we are still working on the traditional way. We are still teaching and doing this. I'm not talking about your university, but the overall, I think we need to shift from a traditional education to a different way of this perspectives. I think the traditional way, for me, is that the world needs a big change, because we can see every day we wake up with the new changes happening in the world. I think what we need is not only a research paper. What we need is a case studies that we can take. From Qatar perspective, from Qatar Fund for Development, is that this things that can make the change in these countries. Because the issue that we have is we are struggling between the need of the government and the need of the population, of the human needs, and the country themselves. So always we have these two gaps, and how can we fulfill these things? So to fulfill it really through educations. What we need is to build a very strong system when we are talking about the implementations, what we can do for all the sector that we are working on. I think your university here, Carnegie Mellon have this diversity on the economy side, on the digital, on the IT, on the data. We need to work with you very closely on how this growth that can be changed. Because I will tell you, we cannot say that, oh, I'm living only in Qatar and I'm fine, I'm satisfied. No, because the region is not fine. The other region is affecting you. Okay, because your economy and your income is coming from other region. My economy coming from I supply. I know the last speakers was His Excellency the Minister of Energy, where we provide our 80%, 70% of our gas is to Asia. So we need to understand how can this line, of channel that we have until reach to Asia, how this secures, how we work, because development is security. Development is the security. Without good development, you will never get securities on these countries. Okay, because that's aspect. It will link together. Okay, from different angles. So always, for me on the student side, when you are making this case study that we are talking about, I think very important we link it with these other sectors on the development, on the humanitarian, on the economy side, and the very important part is the security side too. Because, by the way, no single government is working without the security, is looking at the security pipeline, And we cannot, security doesn't mean that for me it's an armies and all these things. No, security is the peace, for each countries. This is how the countries need to work very close on, and they can make a big change, to the developments aspects.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for those insightful answers. I think at this point, I'm going to open it up to some questions. And so if you have questions, and I'll remind you, a question is a short statement with a question mark at the end. We have two microphones set up, either at the left and the right. And if you'd like to walk over to one of them, we will take your questions. There we go. We have our first taker.
Good.
Oh, and if you can introduce yourself when you ask your question.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, Your Excellency, Dean Trek. My name is Mohammed Al Ali, a data science and information systems student here at Carnegie Mellon. So my question is tied to the topic of data and education and managing the investments in this field. Because, look, your main goal is to collect data and metrics, but how do we know that when the numbers of classroom rise, the human potential rises as well? I mean, we want these students to be equipped with the skills and knowledge capable of getting them into high institutions such as CMUQ and the other prominent schools here in Qatar Foundation. So with that in mind, we do also want to automate this process, right, for the future. So what do you see a solution to this?
So again, what you are raising, what the
So metrics, as in more classrooms, more students, as well as human potential, like the potential of these students, as in more higher grades, how can I say this, more skills developed, more knowledge, more depth, not just a few selective degrees or schools that they get into. No, like getting them equipped with knowledge very broad that they could get into multiple fields which develop and support their country in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. Thank you very much. And I think that I mentioned about the skills, and I mentioned about the traditional way is not working very well for us from the development perspectives, because what the need is to mix between what the student study and what the reality today. All right, and how can we bring this reality together? All right, and not only this, I was this recently visiting Ghana, and meeting with the president, of Ghana, and was talking the same things what you are saying today. Okay, he's saying, okay, the student in the university is studying something, and our need is something else. But we try to make this supply chain, between the demand of the graduation of the number of students, all these things, and what's we need, as the countries, because my needs is different than what they are doing today. So how can we match the supply chain together, and how can we work on that aspect? I don't think each university can, for example, CMU can address only Ghana or can address one or two countries. But I think the needs on the world is being changing, and I think we need to adapt this changing sometime. This changes what is happening. As I mentioned, what the trend today is the mining. Everyone talk about mining. The mining wasn't a trend. There was only a few countries who was taking the lead on that things. But now everyone is interesting. Either us, I can tell you, in Qatar Fund, wasn't our plan, but we just adopted last year. And we take it part of our strategy. And now how can we implement it, in different ways? Because, by the way, it's too expensive. That's why in the beginning people don't want to discuss. But now the technology has been advanced. So what we need to do is to shift the technology to see how this can be well utilized. Because some people invest millions of dollars to that, and they reach zero. Like what you discover, oil and gas. This is the new thing that need to be going and to take the knowledge on it. Thank you.
Thank you very well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Over on the right-hand side here, my right-hand side.
Hi, good afternoon, Your Excellency and Dean. I'm Elri Martani, an Information Systems Junior, and I just wanted to ask, what advice do you have for us who are going to be the future leaders, hopefully, of the country? How can we adapt and be ready for the new strategies and developments of Qatar, as I feel like every day there's new advancements and changes. So how can we keep up, and what advice do you have for the youth?
Thank you very much. How to keep up is we need to keep up too, on that things. But thank you very much. I think this is important. See, I think we cannot keep changing our strategy, every day, which is very important. We need to sustain it at least for 3 years. Now, that's why we used to have a strategy for 10 years before, and putting a strategy. We have agreed, together in the board that will not be working anymore, because the strategy need to be only maximum for 3 years, and every year we keep managing our strategy to see what have been changed, what we adopted, what something have been work and what doesn't work, for us, from the Qatar Fund for Development and from the national perspectives. I think how can we adapt as a student, this changing is happening every day, and how can we work on that things? This is very easy to do, because the change is happening today is that we cannot keep that, we are not monitoring the news every day. Okay, so it's very important student to know what's happening today. Okay, because we as the leaders, by the way, we manage this through the news. Okay, because the news now give you indications of what's happening. You analyze it, and then you take your certain decisions sometime. If we want to go to this country or cannot, because sometimes I can tell you I'm going to this country with a very clear mission, but the situation have been changed, so I cannot move now. Okay, so I need to wait, like what's happening, for example, in Venezuela or happening in Cuba. So certain countries we need to look at it. Okay, but certain countries have differently a good sustainability plan. Okay, we can work and adopt that plan on it. I think what you need as a research, as a business case, when you're putting your plan, you need to see what's the news or what the things that have been top today, and we will say, is this something that we can adopt or no? Because we need you to work with us on that things. You need to advise, and to say, okay, I'm a student, but I'm writing to Qatar Fund for that. I believe strongly this mining things could be like what the climate, happening. It's important, but was a wave. But you see now, people not taking. I can tell you, some NGOs have changed, and removed climate aspect, and they change it, with resilience or others, because the donors are not anymore giving any funding for that things. But this is not acceptable for us. Okay, we have a base that we want to work on, and this base that we have is working. But we will never change our sectors. Education will never change. We will not change health, we will not change economic empowerment. Infrastructure will be still the need. But the other trend that we have is we need to manage, today of what the important. But I believe the natural resources is the most important things because we have adopted this in Qatar, and I think this is a good strategy that we can say to the world how been Qatar in 1960 and where we are now after 60 years. I think this is a perfect thing that you need to study it and we need to take it now to the world. Because one of the things I mentioned, they need a building capacity. The countries need to know how can we build their capacity and how can we work with them on that aspect. يعطيك العافية شيخ.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
My name is Diram Topa. I'm a research associate here at CMU and also an alum. I have a question regarding the Qatar Fund for Development's ventures in Syria. I've seen that there are a few ventures that have been initiated in the past year or so. I speak as a Syrian myself, so I'm interested in what's being done. What do you see are the priorities in Syria for the foreseeable short term, let's say 5 to 10 years?
Thank you. Syria is again it's important for the whole region, not only for the state of Qatar. The sustainability for Syria is sustainability for the whole things, for the whole region. Again, this is the security issues. You see, so we need it because we need more security for the region. The development is playing a big role. Our role is, as I mentioned to you, is a humanitarian development. I think they don't need any more humanitarian. You see, this is my opinion. What they need now is development. So what they need is no more the investor to come. Syria was depending before 40 to 50% on agriculture. Okay, this is what we need to strengthen Syria back on. How can we support the agriculture zone? Exporting, importing, open the ports, more flights. You see, so everything is interconnected together. So you need the transportation, the good logistics. You need the agriculture. You need good waters. But Syria lost lots of waters. You see, after that, there is lots of burden now on the waters themselves, clean waters, to come for agriculture. So all of these things that what they need is for agriculture's perspective. But if there is no energy, no clean water, no security in the country, people cannot do exports. You see, so we hope now, hopefully by that time, alhamdulillah, Syria is. I think they're taking a very good steps. The governments and either the private sectors, because they are strengthening now in the private sector things, which is very important. The one that I was talking, and this is what we are supporting, for the futures that they continue. The first things that we have done is electricity, because there was a huge gap. I went third day after the new government take over. I can tell you, less than an hour, they have electricity. Less than an hour. Now, thanks God, they have more than 10 hours, and sometime, they go for 16 hours, which is thanks to the state of Qatar and other partners, we have reached this things. So the private sector, this is my answer, strengthening the private sectors.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have time for one final question, and here we are at the right.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We've worked together in the past with Educate a Child, so it's exciting to see you here now. You mentioned a lot about your partnerships locally with education above all. I'm really curious about your approach to international partnerships and how you balance priorities, especially when they compete, not duplicating them and then complementing them.
Sorry, what's your question?
What's your approach to international partnerships? I see QFFD partnering with ADFD, Islamic Development Bank, Gates Foundation. How do you make sure these priorities are balanced, not duplicated, but also complemented?
Sure. So, first of all, for the duplication and making sure there are no duplication, which is very important questions. If you go to our website now, and we have created like expression of interest. When it's come to education, it will take you directly to our strategic partners, which is education above all. Okay, so mean that I don't review any projects, which is related to education. Let's go to education above all. They do the evaluation, either with their mandate or they can share it with us, for our opinion, or we will be funding other other education projects, but mainly we go through the strategic partners. But for other partners, for example, you mentioned about Bill Gates, which is we just signed with them 500 million, during Doha Forum. We shift the partnership with them. It was a grant base, with Bill Gates. We make it to the investment for development base, So, and this is the approach that we have taken, which is we adopting now our new strategy. We are working with the development banks like World Banks and others, but we work it in a different perspective. You see, it's not, as I mentioned to you, we make sure there are no duplication because each bank is covering, except the World Bank, each bank covering the region. So we work with Islamic development banks, which is cover Latin America, Asian development banks cover Asia, and Islamic development banks cover, the African and Islamic countries. And each one have their own mandate, by the way, of focusing in infrastructures or the soft component. The soft component is mainly education, health. We are trying to convince this development banks to work on the soft components because most of the bank used to work on the hard component, which is the infrastructures, building, procurement, doing all those things. But we are keeping saying to them that this will not work alone, and they need to look at how they can support the country on the economic side too, because we need to improve the income generating for the countries. I mean, there are a huge wave now going in Africa, Latin America, and discovering on gas, by the way, gas and oils. And we see a lot of countries. If you take that's just recent countries, Lebanon, Egypt, Senegal, 5-6 countries have huge discoveries in the gas now. So this is after 4 years, we'll see the demand being changed, on the source of the oil and gas, and we'll see new countries coming up to play a big role on that. That's what we need to strengthen with our partnership, where we go for infrastructures and working on all of these aspects. And I can tell you, there are big change happening now in Bangladesh and major countries where they're looking at this in very serious ways. Discovering, and taking a very good steps. I think, and this is the futures will be for these countries. And just last things I want to end in. And last December we've been working in a graduation for the countries. So they're bringing country from less LDC country, low-income countries to be mid-income countries. So we are succeeding now with a number of countries to bring them from low to mid-income countries, which is very important because this will help a lot. The issue sometimes that certain countries are losing some benefits, if they being mid-income country. What we are asking our partners, the development banks, is to give them a transition period. So at least 10 years, they give a transition period for them. For example, the rate, for loans could be from 2% jump to 5%. Now we said you need to continue with this rate, to continue with this country so they can work on it. So I think this approach, pushing the countries to going from low to mid-income countries, this is main objectives. Now we are leading, as Qatar, and was the Doha Declaration have been held in 2022, and we are taking this strategy, lead by His Highness the Emir, have been making huge commitment for this, and we're working toward this commitment.
Okay, thank you so much. Very important work, and I'm glad you're here to talk to us about it. So let's thank Mr. Al-Sulaiti for being with us today.